deciding to come here? Besides Eric, I know you have. Yeah, okay. You have. I think we talked in the hall. Okay. Does anyone else feel like they're really good at identity management or access management, things like that, things to do identity? No? I think if you went to Eric's talk, his point was like, we're security people and we just kind of ignore identity. That's someone else's problem. Maybe that should be our thing. That's what I took away from it. I don't know if that's what you wanted me to. Yeah. So I'll say it's a new, big asterisk around new concept, because nothing in IT is new. RSA, everyone's like, oh, public-private keys are amazing and new. No, they came out in '76. They're not new. It's very old. So we'll come back to that in a bit. So about me. I'm one of these dirty, smelly people in this picture. I was in the Army for 15 years. I've been out for 359 days, if my math is right. So who's counting, right? So that's how I ended up in the coveted last speaker spot on the last day, is I'm the new kid on the block as far as B-side speakers go. So some about me and biases and what is IT like in the Army. Everything is harder when you're trying to do it while camping. Seriously, so a common task I'd have is like, the commanding officer needs a mobile office to work out of. Like, cool. Brechin, you're the IT guy. She needs some tents and some tables and some computers. And I'm like, okay, cool. So computers needs internet. We're in the middle of a field. That's going to be hard. We need power. Okay, I need to go get a generator. It would be cool if no one, took the commander hostage. So I need security. Everything just gets harder. Then you hang out there for a bit. You kill all the grass that you're working on, and suddenly all the computers stop working because they've eaten a lot of dust. It's just everything's harder. Other fun things, we're kind of like dogs. We get the zoomies. Like we go through frenetic periods of just working 36 hours straight, and then we'll just pass out and be good for a little bit of time. So we have weird, deep conversations, a lot of times making fun of the good idea fairy or big concepts, being like, that'll never work. It can never get applied. That's probably why when I saw self-sovereign identity as a capstone or thesis project, I went, that sounds like a terrible idea. I'm going to do it. The other thing I want to talk about is just the users I'm used to supporting in the Army. And I say this with the utmost affection. Most people in the Army are akin to cavemen when it comes to technology. And I'll paint you this mental picture. So picture a bunch of dudes out in a field. They look a lot like these guys. If they're lucky, they have a table. I've just given them a laptop. If they're not lucky, they're probably balancing it on a rock. So this guy's cold, he's wet, he's tired, he's hungry. The computer is acting up, the application's not working. Rock might meet computer at velocity if I can't fix it for him quickly. And they self-admit, they go, we don't really want it. Like if it doesn't work, if it's not reliable, if it's not usable, it's wasting my time. Get rid of it. Not saying computers have been left behind vehicles and backed up over, but I did have a bag full of random bits. So that's kind of what I'm coming from as far as my bias of users. If it doesn't work, kind of like the Apple model, like it just has to work. Okay, so what's in a name? First time I saw self-sovereign identity, I was given a list of capstone things that professors wanted to supervise, and I went, what's that? And I did a quick Google, and I went, I hate this. I'm very passionate about it. I should probably do something with it. The first thing, I didn't like the name. Does anyone else like have an allergic reaction and they think like sovereign citizens or freemen on the land? Like that guy who's going to rent your house and you're just never going to get rid of him. It has nothing to do with that. The name is unfortunate. I think there could have been better names, but this seems to be the market-leading name. You could say it's like tablets and iPads and things. The first thing that I bought that was a tablet, you would now call like a convertible or a slate. That was in 2007. So the name could change. Whole bunch of competitors up on the screen. People say like, oh, it should be trust over IP or multi-source identity. Decentralized or digital identity is also very popular. Who knows what it's going to be called? The other one, military guy. We talk about sovereignty a lot, especially in the Arctic. In my mind, sovereignty is like the purview of nation states. That's where sovereignty is. So when he said, oh, we want people to be sovereign over themselves, I went, whoa, I don't like those words. Those word choices triggered me a little, just based on my biases and background. Okay, so let's talk about some foundational knowledge, some things we should all know just so we can talk about things using the same sheet of music and same terms. So before I talk about the new sexy model for self-sovereign identity, what are the current ones? So there's really 3 or 4, but I'm going to boil it down to 2. So I'm going to say the first one's the silo model. You're probably used to this. I still run in the silo model. I don't use an identity provider for anything else. So if you check my password manager, I have like 100 accounts. So I've got one for my Yahoo Mail. I've got multiple Gmail accounts. I've got a whole bunch for all the different services. So everywhere I go, I make an account and they steal a little bit of my information, probably my date of birth, so they can send me a nice email saying, hey, here's a coupon or something on your birthday. And they're not linked up in any way. So that's kind of the silo model. We're all probably pretty used to silos. The next one, we'll call it the federated model. You could also say there's a user-centric model, and there's some other ones that are very similar. It's really you've got someone who's gotten big, like a Google, a Facebook. Some of the services I use will actually let you use GitHub to log in. That's funny, right? You can use an existing service that you trust to access a second one. I want to pause and think about that for a second of why a service like Google or Facebook or something would go through the extra work of letting you log into a third service using theirs. So really they're becoming an identity provider. So can anyone give me a motive of why they do that? My friend. Their core business is? Advertising. Their core business is advertising, yes. Oh, I love it. So based on what other services I'm using, they're collecting data on me. They're getting my pattern of life so they can serve me better ads. That's like the perfect answer. I've never met you before, but I think I've seen you at some point. I did not plant that answer. That's exactly why. So these services that you're logging into at the very end, they're going to end up with less information about you. It'll be in the fine print about how much they get. Some of the ones I looked at just said, oh, we get your email and access to your profile pictures. About the least amount, some of them are higher. Okay, public key cryptography. I'm sure everyone knows lots and lots about this. Basic things, you have a public key, a private key. Keep your private key private. You can sign things, you can encrypt things. These are becoming more and more popular. It seems like blockchain really popularized this and made people realize like this is a thing that we've been doing for quite a while. HTTPS, for instance. The other thing that often goes with this is you'll have some sort of a wallet or an app or a something where you hold these in and someone can send something to you. That's really all we need to know about public key cryptography. Blockchain, just grab some basic images off the net. I always look at this as kind of a decentralized data center. So you got a bunch of guys and they're out there validating things. And they're really running mirrored data centers. And they're just getting it in very small bits and bytes whenever they add a block to the chain. They're doing it via some sort of consensus mechanism, whether it's proof of stake or proof of work or a Byzantine consensus model. A lot of times there's some rewards for validating. It costs you some money to do transactions. That's blockchain. The big thing I want you to remember here for blockchain is it's supposedly decentralized. I'm putting air quotes around decentralized. We'll come back to that in a bit. But the other one, it's immutable. Once it's on the chain, it's spread out across all of these data centers, people's laptops or big mining farms in China or whatever it is. It's very hard to change that information. Okay, here's one that I'll spend a bit more time on. Just because people might not know this, they might have heard zero-knowledge proofs and you go, okay, well the name sounds like you're going to prove something to me and you're somehow not going to tell me what it is. So the best example I've found is the one I've got up on screen here. It's a very old example. It's called Alibaba's Cave, so you can probably guess how old it is based on that. So here's the basic setup for Alibaba's Cave. You've got a cave. It's got a tunnel that loops around. And in the middle of that tunnel, there's a door or a wall or something. And you need to know a secret word or a magic word to get through that. So I'm going to say our wonderful little pigtailed person here, that could be me, I've had pigtails at some point, is going to go into the cave. And I want to prove that I know the magic word. But I really, really don't want to tell Brody what it is, because that would be the easiest way. Brody, the magic word is carrots. Oh, now I know. But now he knows. So no, I don't want to tell him what it is. So I'm going to go down into the cave. I'm going to say, Brody, give me a minute. I'm going to go into the cave. And then you yell at me which side of the cave you want me to come back out of. You might say, well, the first time we do that, I might have gone down path B, and Brody yells B, and I come back and I look like I know what's going on. So the first time you do it, you're probably not going to prove that you know what the magic word was. But if you do that a couple times, maybe 3, maybe 20, maybe 200, when he keeps saying, come down whatever side of the tunnel, and I always come down the right one, I will eventually prove to Brody that I know the magic word, because I'm somehow able to get through that wall, that gate, that whatever thing is in there. So that's a zero knowledge proof. The other thing I want to say is it's not a mathematical proof, like a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which can confuse some people. And I'll say the second principle here, we've got soundness. The more times you check that proof, the sounder it will be. If you only did it 3 times, it might not be right. If you do it 20, that's probably good. If you do it 200, ooh, now we're talking. Very unlikely that you're wrong at that point. Okay, so I've laid some foundational stuff. So let's talk about SSI. And before I even get into that, let's talk about the guy who popularized the term, Christopher Allen. Has anyone heard Chris Allen's name before? Eric? Anybody else? No? Has anyone heard TLS? Yep, we probably all use TLS. Christopher Allen's one of the co-authors for the TLS standard. So if you go to the World Wide Web Consortium, look up who wrote the standard that we all use. Chris Allen and I think 2 other guys. So he's probably legit. He's got some street cred. He's been around a while. He's recently really gotten into blockchain. Then in 2016, he said, we kind of have a problem. Like, we haven't really solved the identity problem for the internet because there's really no good way to solve it, in his opinion. So he said, I'm going to write a little blog because he's one of those people that his blog is a trustworthy source because he's cool enough. So he came up with these 10 principles of the term I hate, self-sovereign identity. Okay, so the first ones he talked about, and if you check out his blog, I really recommend it. He's got a paragraph on each of these, so I tried to boil it down as much as I can. It's the first one. He says existence. You can't just invent an identity for something. It has to boil down to something. So you could say, I think, therefore I am. You could say it has to boil down to a human or a legal entity. Some people really don't like the idea of self-sovereign identity being given out to like an AI program, for instance. They're really looking for something that you're representing digitally. The other thing here in existence, and this is an odd question to come from recently retired army dude, big guy with a beard. Anyone here read romance novels or a romance fan? No, am I the only one? Okay. A problem you might have if you find an author you like, is you're like, hey, I really like this guy's books or this gal's books. I want to read more of their stuff. What if they have multiple pseudonyms and pen names? What if they have one per genre or one per publisher? I have an author who writes under 6 different pen names, and it's super annoying to find their books. Because I'm like, what did they call themselves for this series? Yeah, okay. So maybe you want to have multiple identities. So the concept we're trying to get at here is one person. I can have multiple identities. So I could write different pen names. I could have one for my screen name if I'm an actor. I could have multiple identities, maybe one for my regular user, one for my admin, one for my super domain controller admin. But it doesn't go the other way. If there's an identity out there, it should boil down to one person, one entity, one thing. So if Anirudh and I decided, hey, we should make an identity, well, we should probably sort out like, how do 2 people share the same identity? Maybe we make a business. Then it's not just the 2 of us. Then it's Anirudh and Brechin Incorporated. So that's existence. Control. This makes sense. We're talking about sovereignty, kind of thinking autonomy. Whatever that thing is that that identity maps to should be in control of it. Access. Well, if I control it, I should be able to access it, right? I shouldn't have to jump through a bunch of flaming hoops or rely on someone else for it. Transparency. This is the basic, don't rely on security through obscurity. Whatever black magic makes this whole system work, it should be open. You should be able to find it on GitHub and inspect it. And there should be a bunch of smarter people than I who have vouched that it's a good idea. Persistence. Well, it doesn't help if I get a digital passport or a digital driver's license and my domain controller admin account, and then it all just disappears. That wouldn't be great. So we want it to be long-lived. But we also have to remember we've got GDPR and the right to be forgotten, and I'm in control of it. So I want it to be long-lived up until I don't want it anymore, and then I should be able to somehow hide it or delete it. It might be a tall bill. Okay, so the other 6 here, so we've got portability. If I've got it stored in a data center, I should be able to pick it up and move it to a different data center. If it's living on a blockchain or my phone, phone's a great example. Maybe I'm not the best example because I've only ever had 4 smartphones in my life. I should be able to port this to something else. So if it's in an Alberta data center and I move to Ontario, I should be able to take it with me. If it's in my Samsung 20, newest thing I've ever owned, and I get the 23, 24, whatever the current model is, I need a way to port that over. I shouldn't be chained to something like that. Interoperability sounds similar, right? I should be able to port it. Interoperability is easier, right? If it's in data center A, I should be able to show it to someone in data center B. That's actually a lot easier to get it interoperable than it is to be able to pick up the underlying data set and move it and make it portable, in my opinion. Consent. So this gets interesting. If I've got full control over my identity and I've got the sovereignty over it and I'm controlling it, I should be able to consent to who's looking at it. So this one gets into a bit of kind of data sharing. So if I'm using my identity to log into my email, the information should stay with me. And if I want to revoke consent for Google to know my date of birth or something, there should be a mechanism for me to do that. Companies probably won't like this. They'll go, no, I'm used to data harvesting and controlling all of your stuff. That's quite what they're comfortable with. That's the consent piece. Just like consent applied to anything else, you can give it, you can revoke it at any time. Minimalization. So we're going to do lots of examples for this, but really, if I need to prove something to you, like I'm buying a house and the asking price is $250,000, I should be able to prove to you that I have that much money without showing you my bank account and all my statements. We're just trying to show that, boil it down to kind of like a yes or a no kind of question. Then protection. So this is one where I disagree with Christopher Allen. He's much more famous than me, so way on the side of him. He says the rights of the users should be protected as the primary thing, even over getting a functioning network. And the reason working of the network, what if we can get some incremental gains by sacrificing a little bit of this? Would we not still be doing good for humanity if we can get it working and we have to give up a little bit of consent or control? So that's the big definition. So Christopher Allen kind of coined the term as the first mover in the space. Self-sovereign identity seems to have stuck around. If you read his blog, he really wasn't trying to say like this is the best model ever. He said, let's talk about this. And being a smart person and the first one to talk about, everyone said, that's a great idea. I love the name. I love your 10 principles. It's locked in stone now. There are a few people who have proposed other definitions. Most of them have a different name for it. They'll call it decentralized identity or trust over IP or something. The favorite one I've come across, doing a lot of research in the past year, there's a security researcher named Settlemyer. He's got a bunch of friends. They did a lit review. They wrote their findings. They said, you know what? We should ask the tech community. So they said, here's what we think 9 good rules would be, or design principles. And then they did 15 iterative interviews. They selected 5 or 6 experts, and they changed them a whole bunch. The first 7 really just boil down what Christopher Allen said. The last 2, what they call design principle 8 and 9, are something I think we were missing. So they say reliability and usability are very important. Because I know you guys are all pretty technical. Maybe you feel comfortable being the sole person in control of your identity. I'm not sure I do. I've only had an Alberta health card for like 9 months and I already lost it once. So maybe I should not be the only person. Maybe there should be a help desk or some AI or some guardrails to help me out. Especially when we talk about some of the things that are going to come up. If you're asking me to trust things, so if I'm hiring someone out of the crowd here, and you say, oh, I've got a degree from Bow Valley College. How do I verify that? I would really like some guidelines and something in an app or a website or something to make that easy on me. Same thing, kind of usability. Like if it's not user friendly, my caveman users will not use it or they will smash it. Okay, so let's model this. Let's talk about some actors. If you haven't figured out, I kind of like Thor or Chris Hemsworth, depending on what you want to call him. So see this, we got Bow River College. I don't know if they issue medical degrees, but in this scenario they will. They're going to give a medical degree to the handsome man in the center. He's going to apply to work at a hospital, and they're going to say, hey, you want to be a doctor? Do you have a degree? He's going to say, yes, I have a degree. It's issued by Bow River College. We've probably used some public key cryptography. They've signed it. It's almost looking like a certificate now. Here it is. He's going to send them something to satisfy saying, I got proof. They might say, yeah, I'm going to double check that. And they might reach out to Bow River College, see, is this thing still valid? Is this actually your signature? So that's kind of the basic model. We're really just looking at someone, the holder, the user, you, being in control of your things and being able to show them. You could replace any of these with almost anything. So is Prashant still in the crowd? No? Okay. Who do I know as a teacher? Nobody else. Let's say I want to write a review of a restaurant. I could say, I'm going to write a review of a restaurant. I ate at a donair place last night, and they hyped it up and said, it's going to be spicy. It was not. I don't know if they assumed that I was white, and the level of spice they put in was going to be enough. It was not. I was disappointed. So instead of going on Google, I could send them a review. It could sit in their wallet, and if they wanted to show it off, they could. You could do this with almost anything. You could do it with grades. You could do it with your insurance. Anything you can think of that we do right now. You could do it with a driver's license, passport, almost anything you could convert digitally, right? You might be thinking, well, this doesn't really seem like a super good improvement. Like, is this actually better? It could be. Depends how it's done. The big thing here kind of comes down to how does this get verified, right? So if I was going to hire someone out of the crowd and you said, yeah, I've got 3 degrees and a CISSP and a this and a that, in kind of the current model, I know how to verify those things. I can call up ISC squared and say, hey, street number this, is this guy still valid? Has he paid his dues? Things like that, right? If you presented that to me in some sort of self-sovereign identity model as a verifiable claim is what we call it, you can think of it just like a certificate. How do I do that, right? So that kind of comes back to what Settlemyer and all said, usability and reliability, kind of giving me those guardrails to help make this system work so that I can actually have comfort in it is hugely important. Some of you might say, this looks a lot like just a server getting a certificate from a certificate authority. But it is. Like I said, this is not a new concept. Really what's new here, I won't even say new because pretty good privacy and the Web of Trust tried this, just didn't catch on. Maybe it wasn't usable enough. I don't know why. Really, we're just empowering everyone to hold and store and issue certificates. Replace certificate with verifiable claim or verifiable credential in the self-sovereign identity speak, and you've got the core idea. You can link in a bunch of other things. You can say, oh, we need some storage. Maybe there should be a revocation list. You can complicate this as much as you want, but this is really the core thing. And like I said, one of the other big things I want to talk about is if I can issue a claim about someone else, should you trust me? I don't know. Depends. How is the system built out? Are there ways to verify that I'm a good dude and a trusted dude? Okay, so let's talk about some practical examples and kind of how we can minimize data a bit. This is an actual driver's license that someone used to try to get a job at a weed dispensary, I think. Found it online. I did not make this. It is punny. And the other thing I'll point out is if you do the height conversion from centimeters to feet, it also ends in a humorous number that starts with 6. So, if I want to go buy weed, smokes, some liquor, any of those things, what's the common thing they're going to ask? Well, maybe not me, because I've had a beard like this since I was 16, but someone who looks a little younger than me. How old are you? How do you prove that, right? You pull out your ID. So, how much stuff is up there on the ID? Too much. That is the exact right answer. So we got all these things. And what are they really trying to prove? Can someone boil this down a bit more for me? Birthday? I like that. I heard a name. I don't really care about a name. Oh, age. Yes. Yes. I like it. All right, I like this. We've gone on like 3 iterations. So we went birthday, age. Now we've gone down to just over under. Over under what?
I would argue that it's age combined with your likeness. It's not just your age they're verifying, but also
Oh, I like this. This is even better. Okay, so I think we were getting at kind of like, are you over or under the age of majority, right? So we can boil that down. And then we say, well, who is it? I would like a picture. I would like some proof that you are you. That the person presenting this is the person that this claim maps to when I talked about existence. So that's great. So really, We could block out everything on this driver's license other than date of birth and a picture, and we'd be fine. I should be able to legally buy whatever my age-restricted item was. So let's look at how that could work in SSI. So let's assume we've got some magical app. It controls everything on my phone. We won't worry about the black magic that supports it. Maybe there's a QR code. Maybe QR code's a bad example because currently I missed a cool tech demo. There's going to be some sort of a prompt saying, prove your age, or prove a question. And you're going to get some little buttons, and there might be like some sliders. And you say, oh, what do I need to send? Maybe just a picture and a date of birth would be good. That would be an improvement over what we have now. But like we said, we can get better. We can boil this down further. I'm trying to remember if it's the next slide. Okay. So we can boil this down further. So if we go back to zero knowledge proofs for a minute, really we said we just want to get to the age of majority. Are you over, under? You don't need to know when I was born. You don't need to know if I'm 30 or if I'm 60. You just need to know if I'm over 18. Yes, no. You can almost think of it like a function in coding, right? Function, expected output. Yes, no, binary. So that's really where the zero knowledge proof comes in, right? You can say, oh, I got a bunch of claims. They're all hoarded in my wallet. They're all safe, and I'm going to somehow do some zero knowledge proof stuff on it, and out is going to come a yes or a no. And that's really what we're getting at to further minimization of your data. And that's going to protect you, right? You're not oversharing information all the time. Makes it harder to steal your identity. Makes all the identity nerds and privacy maximalists the happiest they can be, right? Okay. So I know I said I had wrote blockchain in here just because I wasn't sure they'd pick me up as a speaker otherwise. So one of the things that I saw, and this will come back to what I'm doing for a capstone. So I had a sign-up board on the wall, and one of my professors said, SSI plus metaverse plus healthcare. And that was about all the information he gave. So I had to Google what some of those words were, because I'm like, I know what healthcare is. And that was about the extent of my knowledge. And I said, self-sovereign identity. I'm like, you want to let people be in charge of their own healthcare information. And then you want to put it in the metaverse. I'm like, you're insane. I need to be there to shoot down all of your ideas. So that's how I ended up getting slightly educated about this. And my first big thought was like, ooh, I really don't like self-sovereign identity on its own. I really don't like adding blockchain to it. Why do we need to do that? Why can't it be in a data center? And I've really come up with no good reason why. But lots of people have websites saying, you need blockchain to make this work. I vehemently disagree with them. I think they are wrong. Because I can go to TD Bank and I can get a certificate from them, the HTTPS, and it works, and there's no blockchain involved. So why can't I do the same thing? The question you might ask is, well, TD owns a data center. And I go, yeah, okay. I do too. It's much smaller and 14 terabytes and has no redundancy because one of my drives just died. But the average user probably doesn't, right? So it's got to be stored somewhere. So people are saying, well, why can't that somewhere be the blockchain? Yeah, Brody. Non-repudiation, yes, or immutability. So if I put some information out there and it's on the blockchain, supposedly it's there forever or until people stop validating the chain. So that breaks your right to be forgotten, right? Suddenly I'm not legally compliant with Europe. That would be one good reason why you shouldn't do this in the blockchain. Maybe there's a smart way you can somehow delete that information, but you really can't because that breaks the principle of the blockchain. It's not meant to be deleted, right? The whole point is you hash information in block 1, and that goes into block 2, and block 3 hashes block 2, and 4 hashes 3. So you can't change block 4 if you're on block 6. Like, it's too late, it's done. The information's out there. Maybe you could hide it or mask it some way, but blockchain storage is not a good idea. I can't wrap my head around why you would do that. I could wrap my head around saying, this is just the identity, and nothing is actually stored there. It's just my public-private key pair, and it's an address. And everything is stored off-chain somewhere else. And I go, okay, well now you still need off-chain storage. You're just making this harder. And then people say, oh, the off-chain storage can be interplanetary file system. And I go, I don't even know what that is. Why are we roping in so many things that I've never heard of before into what could be a simple idea? So really, adding blockchain, it's adding complexity. I don't know if it's actually solving anything for a lot of people. And maybe I have a Western bias, but I pay taxes. I feel like I get some good services from it, some of them being data centers. where information is stored. I have information in the registry. I have a little bit of information in Alberta Health. I have a lot of information in other provinces around the country. Why don't we just make this a government problem? They're talking about making digital IDs, right? Maybe the digital driver's license and passport should be able to be used for more things. Maybe we can just expand this and use our tax dollars. That works for me, Brechin, and privileged place. I won the genetic lottery. I was born here in Canada. Maybe that doesn't work so much if you're in a country that's struggling. I can say my partner is a high school teacher. She specializes in English as an additional language and refugee mental health. Can anyone guess what the most common birthday in her class is? January 1st. I heard multiple people say it. Why? It's easy to register, yes. If you're in a refugee camp and they say, when were you born? And you say, I don't know, or you whiffle and waffle, they just write down January 1st. So in a class of 30, she's had up to 20 kids. January 1st is their birthday. How much do you trust that? Well, I don't know. How much do you trust their age even? I don't know. Some of those kids have beards better than mine. Yeah. Resettled or? Yep. Very true, yeah, and that's a tough problem. I'm not an expert in it, and I don't have the solution, but I will make the problem even more complex. So they're getting a digital ID from someone like the Red Cross or Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, for those of you who don't have French. Great, how did those people decide that that was their birthday? Well, they're using something from their home country, maybe, if they were lucky enough to have it. Do you even trust the documents from their home country? There are countries and students that I've met who go, yeah, I'm here, 2 sons and a dad. Where's your mom and sisters? Well, they're property of the state because the country they came from says as soon as you leave, all property becomes the state. And in those countries, women are property. And they go, oh, okay, that's messy. That's not great. So how do you deal with stuff like that, right? Like we're coming down to a who do you trust issue, and then we're trying to make it digital. So we're just adding complexity on complexity here, and that gets hard. So honestly, does it need blockchain? Hopefully I've convinced you no. Could blockchain be useful? Yes, it could have some limited uses. But just like AI, it's not the silver bullet for anything. Someone still needs to code it. There's lots of issues around that, right? The other thing I want to talk about, so I promised I'd dunk on blockchain being decentralized. Yep, go ahead. Yep.
Centralization of blockchain as a not a technical argument, but rather a technical requirement driven by a political argument. And in this case, I'm wondering how much of what you wrote is driven from a, for lack of a better way to put it, techno-libertarian.
It's funny, you came to the same conclusion in like the 30 minutes I've been talking. I've never met Christopher Allen. I don't know how he votes. But if I was to guess, I would vote libertarian. And that's just from reading a couple of papers of his. I could be totally wrong. And I think probably a lot of people who go to Internet Identity Workshop probably feel the same way. And that's a very valid criticism. A lot of people say blockchain will save us from government overreach. And I go, maybe vote for less shitty governments and you won't be worried about government overreach, right? Is technology the answer to poor political systems? Probably not. Yeah, it's a very valid criticism. And I came to the kind of the same conclusion of the reason he and many other people who like self-sovereign identity want it to be on the blockchain is they're latching onto that decentralization and no central party. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. True. Yeah. Yeah. It's very much an American thing. Yeah. There you go. Yep. Yes. Yep. I think that's fair. And if you know them slightly better, either way, you're good. All Chris's are interchangeable, right? They're fungible tokens. Getting back to blockchain for a second. Oh, Brody, go ahead. Yeah. Yep.
I just think that's an interesting comment. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with any of that,
Yeah.
but that's being right? Where now you can't have that anonymity.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, I'm going to segue on this for a second, just because I did it last night, because I was curious about it, and I don't think I'm a huge target for identity theft. Made a post on LinkedIn, because that's the thing people told me I should do when I get out of the Army. You should get LinkedIn, it'll help you network. So far, it seems to be working. And it said, oh, you'll get 60% more profile views if you verify your profile. And I went, okay, cool. What do I have to do to verify? What flaming hoops do I have to jump through to make this happen? And they said, oh, based on your profile, you can verify 2 ways. You can give us your student email, because you're claiming to be a student at a university, Concordia in Edmonton, by the way. And we'll send you an email, 6-digit one-time code, and punch it in. So punched in my email and said, it doesn't look like a valid email. We don't believe you. And I'm like, oh, good. Chose a school with so much street cred that people don't even know it exists. Excellent. And then they said, or you can take a picture of yourself, do a selfie, and take a picture of your driver's license, and we'll verify you that way. And I went, oh, that's interesting. And I did it, because I'm curious. It worked for me, probably because I looked very unhoused when I got my driver's license picture. Like, I grew my beard out as much as I thought I reasonably could before my wife took a razor to me and probably nicked something in the process. So I look a lot like my driver's license, very, very hairy, very out of control. Maybe it was lighting, I don't know, it worked first time. Took a selfie, took a picture of my driver's license, scanned the barcode on the back, so probably tomorrow I'll have 7 new credit cards. Now maybe I have 60% more profile interaction or whatever LinkedIn was promising. But yeah, like verifying it, well, I don't know if I really trust this. Let's see where it goes. So next year, if someone else shows up here pretending to be BrechinPiper, it didn't work well. Okay, I think we beat blockchain. Oh, sorry, I did have one thing. Anyone speculate on cryptocurrencies? I say speculate in gambling because it really shouldn't be called investment. No? No one wants to admit to it?
We're down.
Okay. I'm still green somehow, but I think it's just because I have a very high risk tolerance. Anyone familiar with Terra? Do Kwon? No? So there's a cryptocurrency. He said, oh, it's decentralized, and everyone brought in, oh, it's decentralized. Well, something went wrong. There's a bug in the code. Someone drained all the money out of it. And somehow Do Kwon had a stop button. He was able to stop the blockchain. So I go, is it really decentralized? I don't know. Now Do Kwon has arrest warrants in multiple countries. The coin is worthless. And I go, doesn't sound very decentralized. Something went wrong. One guy hit the stop button, and now it's basically dead. I went, okay, go ahead. Yep. Sure. Totally. Yep. Yep. So I'll throw out some possible solutions because I don't know the one answer that fits all. So some possible solutions, like I said, you can make multiple identities. So if I wanted to be called Brianna tomorrow, I could just make a new identity. Get a new. I'll keep my same wallet address or whatever it is that lets me hold everything. Just give me a new driver's license. Well, why can't I have 2 claims? Revoke my other one. So there's multiple ways around it. You can issue extra claims or credentials. You can make a new address. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's ways around it. I don't know if any of them are like super clean as they should be, but I can see at least 2 workable ones. Anyway, so I'm done dunking on blockchain. I don't think it's decentralized as much as everyone says it is. Go ahead. Ooh.
Say,
Yep.
for sending emails.
Mhm.
And other people like, now if the security professionals can't be bothered to go out and spend like, I don't know, it's like $75 or something like that to get a certificate that
Yep.
supposedly shows who they are. What I wonder is there anybody out there that actually cares to go through whatever this be, a blockchain or centralized database? Since evidence would show they don't actually care to have an identity.
That is very insightful. I love it. It's Terry, right?
Yeah.
So great question here. So I said this isn't a new concept. Like PGP, Web of Trust has been able to do that. There's better, arguably more secure emails than Gmail. Anyone have Proton Mail? No? Okay. Oh, I saw one. All right. Anyone here gone in and made a PGP account and done Web of Trust stuff and started issuing claims? Were you doing it seriously, or was it just like a curious thing? Yep. Yes. Who actually care? Yeah. 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 If it's user hostile instead of user friendly, are people going to use it? It's not going to catch on, right? So do people actually want this? I don't know, man. That's a good question. Based on, PGP, Web of Trust really hasn't taken off. Well, maybe the reason it hasn't taken off is because it was painful to use. I don't know. True. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Potential issues, and I don't want to be accused of age discrimination. This is just a stock photo, and these are two of the people that came up when I first said, "Oh, we're going to put people in charge of their own identities." So if I live long enough, I'll probably have Alzheimer's, just based on watching older folks in my family get it. At that point, I probably shouldn't be in control of my identity. It's an unfortunate fact. So we're kind of assuming that everyone's a rational actor. And I'm going to argue that there are many irrational actors. If you've got a mental condition, if you're ill, if you're in a coma, if you're having a mental crisis, you could have issues. Anyone have kids in the room? Yep. Who's got kids under, I'm going to say 16? Cool. Yeah, you've got them, right? So if you've got a 4-year-old kid, or even a 16-year-old kid, should they have control of their identity? I don't know. Could you make it user-friendly enough? Well, I don't know. Are they a rational actor who should be allowed to exercise that control? Again, I don't know. So those are two people I go, oh, yeah. Those are some kind of big concerns there. The other one, depending on where you put your self-sovereign identity, if you put it in the blockchain, has anyone lost money on the blockchain? I had some Bitcoin in 2009, and my hard drive died because I'm in the army and it got hot and dusty. And I still kick myself. I don't know what it was, 4, 10? I just got it out of the Bitcoin faucet. I hit something and totally forgot about it. And then I'm like, shit, I had some of that. I could be, theoretically. But there's no help desk. There's no forgot password. There's no way to restore it. There's no 1-800-HELP ME. Like, I had to do the embarrassing thing where I called in and said, hey, I lost my health card. Can I need a new one? They said, what's your health card number? I'm like, well, if I knew that, I wouldn't need a health card. Oh, go to the registry so you can prove who you are. And I went, oh, okay. You don't trust me over the phone. At least this is good. So if we're going to decentralize it, I really want some good guardrails and some good control over how do I restore that? Do you shard the key? Do you spread it out to friends? Do you have password recovery? Do you put in a back door? Something like that. But at that point, are you compromising decentralization and security? Probably. So depending whose definition you like, Christopher Allen would say, no, don't do that. But don't worry about it being user hostile. We need to protect the user over the network. Other people would say, no, usability. We need usability. So it's just a thought to chew on. But then, if we do put it in a centralized data center, I have friends who work for the provincial government in IT at the data center in Edmonton. I more or less trust them. I'm not too worried about them going in and changing stuff. Other countries I've been to, I would not trust the local employees. So, no winning either way. I'm going to check my notes and make sure there wasn't anything super cool that I wrote down for myself. Dunked on blockchain, yes. Rational actors, yes. Okay. Last thing I'll say, if I haven't pointed it out enough, I don't think I'm an expert in this. I think I've just done more reading than probably people in the room, mostly because I need to get a degree. So I don't have Q&A because I don't know if I have answers, but I will say in the next 10 minutes or until someone kicks us out, feel free to engage in discussion. The other thing is, if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, my name's very unique. If you can find someone else with the name, good luck. But you can get confused with the Brechin City Pipe Band in Scotland. All right. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Brody. Thank you, Crocs, for making all this work. And feel free, hit me with questions. I'm going to start dismantling stuff, but I can multitask mostly sometimes. Please. So, I'm on the fence right now. I would like one, but I do not want the responsibility of being in charge of it myself. I want some guardrails and I want a help desk. I want someone smarter than me who can reset it. So for part of my capstone, the kind of final thing I have to do to graduate, I'm putting this on the blockchain just to prove how bad of an idea it is. I'm going to make some healthcare fake information. We're going to make some actors, and we're going to see how horribly off the rails it goes. So maybe in a year, if I can get this published, you can say, that sounds like a terrible idea. Or, oh, Brechin's finally sold me on it. If I can convince myself, I would say it's probably good, but I don't think I'm there. Questions, comments, discussion? Yes. I am, yes. Yeah, I'm about halfway through. Yep. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Themselves couldn't get a birth certificate.
True. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think we can sum it up in two ways. So there are countries, states, places in the world where citizenship and the right to exist and be recognized by the government is closely controlled and not extended to everyone. It kind of sucks. There are other countries that have given extensive training to people getting ready to go there, where you can't even trust the internet. Say, hey, no one's bringing a Canadian device into theater. You're all going to go buy burner phones in theater. You're all going to get there, and the first thing you're going to do is order a travel router using that burner phone. And then you're never going to use that burner phone without the travel router again, because you can't even trust the network, right? So if we're trying to combine this and say, oh, there's, it won't work everywhere. And some of that is honestly outside of tech's ability to control. Like I can't fix humans who have prejudice and bigotry in failed states as much as I wish I could. It's just, I don't think we'll get there anytime in the near future. Go ahead. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it depends. Do people follow the rules? I know there are companies in Europe that catch fines because they don't exercise the right to be forgotten in a timely fashion or at all. It's just an open-ended discussion point. Eric, I know you're going to have something smart. Yep.
Centralized identity, this university is still going to keep records. Because they don't apply it.
True. Yep. Yes. Yeah, anyone who's going to like give out a claim or a credential, they're probably going to have a whole bunch of dirt on you, right? And they're probably not going to put it all into a claim and credential and encrypt it up and fire it off into space. They probably want some way to back it up, right? Yep. Yes. Yep.
Could argue that forcing something like this to be on the blockchain violates the very principle of the idea.
Yes.
And that is why you not just should not, but must not put it on the blockchain.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I would say if the intent is like everything's going to exist on the blockchain, I don't see how you can do that without breaking a bunch of the principles that we want to adhere to, right? I could maybe see in a hybrid thing where you say like, it's just the wallet with your key and then it's stored somewhere else, but then we get into added complexity and where is that someone else stored? Then you could delete the thing because really you just use the blockchain like, I'm going to date myself and say C, the blockchain is just a bunch of pointers stored somewhere else. And that way you could delete the thing. You can get around immutability and you just have a broken pointer. Kind of? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's my other thing about NFTs is, oh, it's a picture on the blockchain. No, it's not. It's a pointer to a picture somewhere. And the picture's probably not on the blockchain. Yeah. If there's more, please keep going. But like I said, I'm going to start unplugging stuff. Oh. Yep. Totally. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that was one of the things we were concerned about in the Army when I was signals officer. Like we had lots of issued devices, so I gave people laptops, I gave them phones, I gave them Blackberries, I gave them all sorts of toys that I can't talk about. And I go, yeah, where is it going? They go, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, no. I need to know, and I need to worry about it because if it went somewhere sketchy, it needs to come back to me first, and I need to sanitize it, or it needs to get shredded, or all sorts of security things. Yeah, the world is a weird place, and I think sometimes we lose sight of that, how spoiled we are and how much trust we can place in institutions and ISPs, and things just kind of work well, mostly in the Western world most of the time. And when you travel to other places, you realize we're pretty spoiled. Yeah.